Hello everyone, this is Peak Entertainment and we're back again, and here now we have another video for you, and this will be a quick look and review of a new clip that was recently released from the Batman movie. Now of course we all know the Batman movie is due for release on March the 4th, 2022, starring Robert Pattinson in the role as Batman alongside Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman, Jeffrey Wright as Commissioner Gordon, Colin Farrell as the Penguin, and also Andy Serkis as Alfred, with Paul Dano as the Riddler stroke Thomas Elliot stroke Hush, however way you want to interpret this adaptation of the character. Now I do believe that this was a clip that was recently released as a YouTube ad, so I'm not sure why Warner Brothers decided to use that strategy. I know a lot of people have reacted to it. Again, I'm not sure what the copyright restrictions are regarding this piece of footage, and this is something that we're seeing a lot now with a lot of movies now, as well as TV spots. We're seeing 1 minute clips, 2 minute clips released from the particular movie months before it releases. I don't really like that strategy. I think you should just stick to the trailers. I personally would just like to see 2 trailers released before we watch the overall movie, but as we all know, studios are very eager to try and ramp up the hype for this movie, particularly as there's only around 2 months to go before its overall release. Now I'll give a spoiler review when going through this overall footage, but to be honest with you, there's nothing really spoilerific throughout this footage. To be honest, it's mostly extended footage as what we saw already from the trailer. It involves a funeral scene where we see Bruce Wayne alongside Commissioner Gordon, and also some involvement from the Riddler as well. So that's just some quick context to give you when going over all this footage. Now I won't play it with sound just to avoid copyright, but I will play it and I'll keep stopping and starting when we come through any particular significant points throughout the overall footage. It's only around 2 minutes and 20 long, so nothing too spoilery. So we'll just play the footage on here and see what happens. So this first clip here, I believe this was the woman that we saw in the third trailer for this film, and this is where she remarked about Bruce Wayne not really getting involved in the city's affairs. She referred to the fact that his parents were previous philanthropists, and that's typical storytelling from the Batman. We always know that Thomas and Martha Wayne were very much established personalities within Gotham, and that Bruce is much more secluded, working behind the backgrounds when he takes over the enterprises. So I think that's the dynamic that they're going for throughout this video on here. So again, just playing what we've already seen throughout the third trailer. So again, she's just talking on here, and then he comes across this kid here, and this is clearly juxtaposition for Bruce himself, of course, when he would have gone to the funeral of his parents. So you can clearly see what they're going for here. We see Pattinson's Bruce Wayne, who's really silent throughout the most of this trailer. I really hope he exhibits far more personality and charisma. I know we typically refine Batman or Bruce Wayne as being far more of a sullen, serious personality, a brooding personality. They're not going to, it seems, adopt the billionaire playboy personality that we normally associate with the character, but I just hope he's not this serious sullen face for the whole of the 3-hour movie. But this is clearly what they're going for here in terms of a real relevant moment between Bruce and what's going on within the current events. Just very sullen face on here. I'm still not sold on him as Bruce Wayne, but he is a decent actor, so hopefully he can convey enough throughout his performance on here. So this is where we hear Commissioner Gordon talking to another cop, and they're looking for somebody called Coulson, I believe. Now we'll find out soon that this is one of the Riddler's main victims, and I think Jeffrey Wright is going to be very good as Commissioner Gordon, despite the fact that they've done the race change. Of course, I'm never a fan of race swapping characters, but I think because Jeffrey Wright is a great actor, you can overlook that fact, and I think he does very well on it. So they're looking for somebody who's called Coulson, who's recently disappeared. And then we see the cop on here, and he waves to Bruce Wayne, very happy to see him. Again, I'm not sure the context of that scene, whether Bruce Wayne helped him out previously. So there must be some stage throughout the story where Bruce Wayne was far more out in the open and he had far more of a connection with the audiences, right? Because why else would the cop be very pleased to see him? So I'm not sure when this funeral scene takes place, whether it's early on, whether it's halfway through the movie. We'll wait and see. Maybe this is a reference to perhaps the cop knew Bruce when he was young, or he had reference to his parents, and that's why he feels he's familiar enough to actually wave to him. I'm not so sure, but we carry on from here. And they all look at Bruce, and then he doesn't really react at all. So again, I know he's meant to be far more of a brooding personality in this interpretation, I get it, but I just hope we see far more of a personality, if you like, from the character. I don't want 3 hours of him just looking all sullen like this. So again, that's just a personal preference, but I know a lot of people will like this interpretation from Pattinson's performance. So we just keep playing on here, and then all of a sudden they hear a noise, Everybody's all alert. It is very well shot, it's very well directed, but you would expect that from Matt Reeves. So we're really kind of ramping up all of the suspense as the child is looking along here, and everybody is turning round. Again, Bruce looks back on him, and then all of a sudden he sees what we assume is to be Paul Dano's the Riddler. Again, they're going for that very personal connection between two, and here when the van crashes through, he goes to save the kid. Again, typical heroics from the main character saving the kid. Again, we saw this footage within the trailer, so it's very good. So we see Paul Dano walking away there with Patterson looking on. So again, we're just ramping up this tension and suspense as we go along here. And then he looks at I think that's the mayor this is the funeral for. We see the van crashed on here, all the smoke coming out, and he's got all of these writing on there. I think that's DOA at the front windows, what I can see, and maybe on the back as well. I think it's DOA, but I might be wrong. And then we see the person holding up his hand. Again, everybody pointing to him at gunpoint. Again, very tense situations. They're very well directed. And then we see he's got his mouth taped up. We saw that again from the earlier trailers before Riddler is going to be taping up a lot of people. And then we see he's got some sort of bomb attached to his mouth with a device on here. Everybody's looking down. And again, if you remember from the previous trailers, he's got a title card, and I believe it says "To the Batman." So this is going to be one of many examples that we see throughout the movie where Riddler is going to be setting all of these messages and traps to the Batman, and it's going to have that very much of that cat and mouse dynamic throughout the film. So it is a very well staged sequence, I'll give it that. And you see this character here, his head's bleeding, so holding up the phone again. So it's going to be a case of the Riddler phoning and calling the police, calling Bruce Wayne as each trap or each crime is about to be committed. So Robert Pattinson looking very sun-faced, then he opens up the cards to the Batman. They're all pointing the gun at him, and everybody runs away. And I'm not sure whether the bomb goes off or not. To the Batman, as I mentioned before, on his shirt. And then that's where we end the particular sequence there. So really not much in terms of spoilerific, I would say, but just I think I wanted to give a quick indication of the particular atmosphere and the moods that they're setting throughout this film. And to be honest, this wasn't that much of a revelation, because we know that they will be going for much more of that grounded, realistic, very restrained take. I did do a recent video outlining the fact that the film will be 3 hours long, and I outlined my concerns, because for 3 hours I wouldn't want it to be this somber, very restrained tone. There has to be some sort of comic book flavour, some sort of variance, some sort of contrast. Of course, I don't believe that this should be a comedy. We're not going to get, if any, moments of levity or brevity, I would assume, throughout this film. It's going to be super hardcore serious. So it just depends, I believe, on your own preference in terms of what you like to see from a particular comic book movie or not. But you know, in terms of this overall scene on it, was a very well directed scene, so very well shot. And just to give it a quick indication as the type of direction that they're going throughout this movie, so there's not too much more to say on it really. I think it was very well staged, and as I mentioned before, I just hope Patterson's portrayal has got a bit more dynamic to it, because me personally, I couldn't stand that it was going to be this way for the entire 3 hours of the film. I think his relationship and chemistry with Zoe Kravitz will be absolutely key in just keeping this far more of a livelier entry within the Batman franchise. But that's it really in terms of this funeral clip. Not really much too more to say about this. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think it's excited? I'm seeing a lot of positive reaction on social media regarding this clip. Everybody's super excited about this. Do you feel the same, or are you really indifferent? Because as I said, this was really just an extended caption of what we already saw within the trailers. Are you any more convinced by this interpretation of the Riddler? Or did you want to see a far more classic interpretation of what we normally know the Riddler to be? I'm still not sold on the overall look. Paul Dano is a good actor, but I don't like this whole aesthetic of him where he's basically got a green jacket and a green kind of trash can wearing on top of him. I want more closely to the original version, but then that's just me, that's just the way I am in terms of sticking closely to the source material. But we'll wait and see overall how this plays out in the future. But let me know what you think in the comments, and if there are any other clips or any other disclosed information regarding the movie, then I'll report on those as well. You can also check out my channel, recent commentary over the Batgirl footage, and I'll leave some links in the description as well. So those are my overall thoughts on the funeral clip for the Batman, the movie due to release on March 2022. Let me know what you think in the comments. Please also hit and like the subscription and notification buttons so I can provide you with more high quality content like this in the future. But that's it for now. Take care of yourselves, stay at safe distances, and I will see you very, very soon.